I am a very thrifty person, and I split a booth with one of my good friends who's a candle maker in California. So we met in Vegas, and we basically split all the costs. And I just I scaled it way down for myself. Mm-hmm. But I remember the funniest part to me was I built my own display, because most people are like, they've been doing trade shows, they like ship a crate to wherever they need to go. And then the crate goes to their booth, and then they build up walls and like make an experience for you. Mm-hmm. And people like me don't do that, like especially on my first one. I needed to see. Mm-hmm. And so I built my own display out of copper pipes, and then used a guitar case, this foam, like a soft one, on my back, and carried it through the airport. And like I put it on, everything went on the plane with me. I didn't ship anything, I don't think, except maybe some cardboard. And I just remember going through the world's biggest hotel, and there were all the casinos connecting, holding this guitar bag full of metal, dying under the weight.
Yeah, because copper is not light, right?
It was so much copper.
Oh my goodness. Was it? Welcome back to Sustaining Craft. This is the podcast all about those making some or all their income from their art or craft. I'm Elizabeth Silverstein, your host, and I have with me today Stacey Bowers of Bang Up Betty. Hi, Stacey.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Or actually, thanks for inviting me into your home. I always I do an interview in another person's studio, and I'm like, thanks for coming back. And I'm like, why did I say that? But so if you are watching the YouTube, you'll see that we have Stacey's lovely setup here. You have a home office and a studio, a home studio, and then another studio as well, right? You have two places that you work?
Yeah, I'm divided between here and Station Gifts.
Okay, perfect. And if you're just listening to the podcast, we have an adorable little desk that Stacey works on, and she has all of her tools, and I'll have some photos and everything with the article too, so you can kind of take a look, but it's pretty neat.
Well, thanks.
Well, what do you do, Stacey?
What do I do? I'm a jewelry designer, and I've gotten this, last year was my jump into doing it full time. So it's coming up on a year anniversary of that being all that I do.
Awesome. So 2019 is when you were able to make the jump? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so you're the name, Bang Up Betty. It's a cool little riff on a couple different things. How did you come up with the name?
Betty was my beautiful, lovely cat, may he rest in peace. And I used to, any little art thing I did, I would name after my cats. Mm-hmm. And so I thought Bang Up because of the hammer, and Betty because of Betty, and it just kind of came together.
Yeah, it's very unique. It's one of the things I thought when I first heard about what you did. It catches your eye just the name alone.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. For
cool.
Sure. And where are you from? Did you grow up in Arkansas?
Yeah, in North Little Rock. I grew up 3 blocks from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And so there was a couple of things that struck me about what you've built here. The first being that your background is very different. Like, did you grow up doing arts and crafts? Is that something that you were drawn to?
I did. All through high school, I did art. I was art club president. I went to college and dabbled in art and did more graphic design. And majored in communications, and then kind of fell out of art, and then this happened. I guess I started doing this about 6-7 years ago, and when I was 16, I started working at the bead shop, the Argenta Bead Company, and so I kind of had a little bit of basic background on how to make jewelry, and then the stamping is self-taught. And I just kept at it and kept growing it and changing it, and here we are.
Yeah. And from what I saw from kind of the other stories that you've done, you started just making gifts for friends. That was in 2013. It was just you wanted to do. Because I first met you, we kind of we've touched circles a little bit, but I interviewed you for an article in local magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And some of the things that came up there is that you want your gifts to be an experience for people.
Yeah.
So is that how it started? You wanted to create something unique and have an experience just for your friends?
I wanted to make people laugh.
Okay. And you do. What are some of the things that you do that do make people laugh?
Can I cuss in this?
Oh, yeah. Now that YouTube makes you like say if it's safe for children, I'm like, nope.
People are really drawn to things that I do that are just irreverent. Mm-hmm. Like I was making the earrings that say "stop talking" and "shut up." Mm-hmm. I have some that say "fuck off." Mm-hmm. I've got my little nope middle finger charm over here. This one I've been doing since like the very beginning. Mm-hmm. I've got a knife necklace that says "I'll cut you," and then I stamp "get shit done" on things, and people love that. But that's just a little bit of it.
Yeah. There was a couple of things that struck out to me about what you're doing is there's kind of the hard and the soft that's happening. So you have the hard from the hammer and the metals, but then they're delicate. Like these are tiny little delicate things that, you had mentioned in one of your interviews that people get close and it says something inappropriate. So then that's the hard coming back in, with those words. Why do you play around with those two different kind of systems?
I think a lot has to do with my own personal taste in jewelry. I typically wear things that are small and discreet, and I think a lot of other people appreciate that too. But my attitude is not small or discreet, so it's a little combination of the inner and outer me.
That's really great. And when you went to college and you why did you choose communications and marketing?
Because, quite frankly, an English degree was going to take too much work.
And I have an English degree, and it does. I went the
My roommate was doing it.
Okay. I did go the non-thesis route, but it still was a lot of work, because that was my consideration, too, like communications, marketing, and then I went with English and kind of got a little bit of all, but it is. Yeah.
It's like you can still write if you do communications. Mm-hmm. You just basically don't have to go to school forever. My friend just got her PhD. So the friend that I went to was my roommate. What was that? Like I think a year ago she got her PhD. So.
Oh wow! Is she going to teach?
Yeah, she's teaching.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And so you got this communications degree, and then were you able to get a job right away with it? What did you?
Well, I graduated during the recession.
2008, 2009.
When did I graduate? I graduated technically in the winter of 2009. Yeah. And so no, I did unpaid internships for a very long time and worked in restaurants and had 5 little tiny jobs, and it was crazy.
Yeah, I was summer of 2009 is when I graduated, and it was a very similar story. I ended up moving to Colorado in 2010, which is a little bit easier, believe it or not. But yeah, it was a rough time, because they tell you get that degree, you get a job, and we did not.
It'll all work out.
Yeah, it did not. So before you started Bang Up Betty, is that when you were working for the Thea Foundation? How did you get into that?
At that point, I was working. I think I started when I was working at the newspaper, at the Democrat Gazette. I used to. I was editorial assistant for Arkansas Life magazine and Sing magazine, and I think that's when I first started doing this.
Okay.
Yeah, so at that point I was publishing was my career, because I worked in another magazine after that before I transitioned to communications and marketing in the nonprofit world. Okay.
And so how did Thea Foundation come out? So do you mind explaining briefly what Thea is, how you found it, and what you were doing there?
Sure. I started as a communications coordinator and became the marketing director. And it is a nonprofit that has a lot of programs that provide arts experiences, arts education for students who may need help accessing it, and they provide a lot of funding for art supplies for schools that are underfunded, training for teachers to expand their craft, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know for me, the arts was so important to me as a child, because it was really my escape and the way that I was able to just protect myself a little bit, tumultuous childhood. And the arts program is always the first thing to go in the school system.
Yeah.
And it's such a crucial part, because something that really attracted me to your story, which is what I found too as a dog trainer who uses my writing and communications with my marketing, is that the arts is always important. It is, marketing is so important, and it's a creative field, and that has its foundation in the arts. So it's awesome that Little Rock has something like that to
definitely
assist, because it's rare. So you're working at the Foundation. You've become the director, and you're doing this on the side. So basically, you mentioned before we got on camera, basically, is that you had no life.
Yeah,
essentially.
I worked at Thea 40 hours a week, and we had a lot of events and scholarships and things I would do on the weekend, and then pretty much every waking hour that I wasn't there, I was here. And it's one of those things where it's like, am I going to do this forever? Like, I just love doing it. I can't stop doing it, and I can't stop doing there has to be a breaking point at some point where I either keep doing this like I'm doing this, or I stop doing this, and I decided I couldn't stop doing this.
That's something, that's where the passion comes in, right? When you love something so much, not everybody can do that or is willing to make the choice to do that, because it takes a lot out of you, right, to be working that much. It is a lot. So you've started making the presents for your friends. They laughed, they had a good experience, people started asking you to make more. How did it go from, here's something I made for you, to the steps to kind of continuing to build it?
I feel like it was fairly organic. I started making stuff, gave it to them as Christmas gifts, posted them on Facebook like, look at this dumb little thing I made. And people liked it, and I was like, I'll just set up an Etsy page, and then people started buying it, and I was like, this is kind of fun. I'll just make some more stuff. And then eventually it was like, oh, okay, like I'm doing this now. I'm going to make a website. And I'm going to try to, I don't know, do it more and control it, and have my own sort of image for it.
Yeah. And having that creative background, I'm sure, really helped you define it as well, and the writing background, right? Because not everybody can tell their story in a way that connects with people, but you were able to do that, essentially, because you've been able to be featured in quite a few things, like BuzzFeed, and campaigns have, just social campaigns have asked you to create jewelry for them. How did you start making those connections? How did you get your story out there?
A lot of them found me, and I think it just started with them looking at the jewelry and having that same sort of, what does that say? Oh, that's funny. Who makes that? What's the story behind that? And then they reach out to me, and we'd start talking, and it just kind of was organic.
Okay, that's awesome. And being able to use that, because that's a rare thing too, of being able to even be picked up and be seen.
It was always a surprise, and I feel like every time, because I got a few hits on BuzzFeed and things like that, and I was like, oh, maybe I should do like media packets and be official about this and send out samples, and like every time I did that, nothing happened. It was just like, never mind, I'll just wait for it to come to me.
And that's so interesting too, because that doesn't work for everybody either, that organic growth.
Yeah.
It's kind of that's a bit of magic, basically. So that's awesome. And so the breaking point you talked about. So you're getting exposure. More and more people are finding out about you. You're doing more and more. What was that breaking point like for you, and how were you able to see that you could do this full time?
It was really emotional. I was kind of in turmoil because I didn't want to quit my job. I loved my job, and they were my second family, and it took months and months and months. I mean, honestly, a year or more of me thinking, do I really want to do this? Am I really going to do this? I'm going to set up hit all these goals, and then see if I still feel the same way at the end of the year, and just build a giant safety net in case I do quit my job, and then it all tanks. And it's just, it was really, really, there's a lot of anxiety involved, and I'm, I guess what people would call a type A personality. So I did a lot of planning and thinking out all worst case scenarios, and
driving yourself crazy.
Yeah.
I hear you. I've done a lot of the same. So what was there, like a specific moment, because you gave yourself that year to be like, all right, can I do this? What does that look like? Was there a moment where you're like, okay, I'm gonna take this leap, this is what is telling me I need to do this?
Well, I set a weird goal for myself where it was, I think by the fall, or like late fall, early winter, I was like, you're going to do this, but you back out of everything you ever sort of put your mind to. You back out and go in, back out and go in. And so I set a trap for myself, and I signed up to do a wholesale trade show in Las Vegas.
Oh.
And I was like, I sent off the paperwork. I'm like, no, that's it. Like, that is happening in February of 2019, and you're either going to somehow do this and work full time at the end, use your vacation to do it, or you're going to get out and do this. And that, I abused myself.
Yeah. But that's also like, that's basically a deadline, right?
Yes.
And that's what we need as, as writers and people that have worked in publishing. You need the deadline or it's never going to happen, essentially. So it was just like, okay, it was a test, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. And then you're like, all right, I got to do it.
Yeah.
And walk me through that. So wholesale, explain what wholesale is for a second.
Wholesale is retail is when you are going, if you go to a shop and buy something, you're buying it retail. The people who own that shop have bought it wholesale from a vendor like me, or a manufacturer, or an artist, and they buy it at a discount at a bulk rate so that they can then turn around and sell it at the retail price at their shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're still making a profit, and then they're making a profit
Right.
off of what they purchased. So when your pieces are very unique, and it does take time, and it's a lot of muscle going into it. How do you scale each unique piece?
I have been doing this for so long that I've gotten fairly fast at what I do. And it was just really a lot of trial and error. I feel like packaging was really painful, trying to figure out what packaging worked, and I feel like I changed that 4 or 5 times, and I'm sure I'll change it this year.
I want to go back to that Vegas. The Vegas was a retail, it was wholesale, is what you did. What was the response there when you made that plunge and you took your jewelry out there?
It was really exciting. I am a very thrifty person, and I split a booth with one of my good friends who's a candle maker in California. So we met in Vegas, and we basically split all the costs. And I just I scaled it way down for myself. But I remember the funniest part to me was I built my own display, because most people are like, they've been doing trade shows, they like ship a crate to wherever they need to go. And then the crate goes to their booth, and then they build up walls and like make an experience for you. And people like me don't do that, like especially on my first one. I needed to see. And so I built my own display out of copper pipes, and then used a guitar case, it's foam, like a soft one, on my back, and carried it through the airport. And like I put it on, everything went on the plane with me. I didn't ship anything, I don't think, except maybe some cardboard. And I just remember going through the world's biggest hotel, and there are all the casinos connecting, holding this guitar bag full of metal, dying under the weight.
Yeah, 'cause it's copper, it's not light, right?
It was so much copper.
Oh my goodness. Was it worth it? Was the pain worth it?
Yeah, it was really fun.
And do you still do the wholesale shows? Have you gone back to
I'm considering it. I'm just I'm playing the field right now.
the luxury?
I need to find a more healthy and sustainable way than carrying a bunch of copper on my back and having to go see a chiropractor.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's true. And that was just a year ago,
Yeah.
right, that you did that?
Yeah.
Okay. Man.
Plus, a lot of the wholesale market has gone online anyway, so I have online reps. So.
Oh, and that
makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it's easier on your back, easier on your pocketbook.
Yeah.
Well, I also wanted to talk about, so a lot happened basically last year. You did your first wholesale trade show in Vegas. You quit your job and went to this full time. And then in September, you started working at Stiff Station Gifts. So tell me a little bit, how did that come about? How did you get connected with that? And that's your other studio space, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I work out of there and work the shop 2 days a week, more when it's busy. But that was one of the most wonderful things that's ever happened to me, honestly. Cindy Booth owns Stiff Station Gifts, and she's a fellow jewelry designer. And we'd kind of known each other in passing from doing craft shows and stuff around town. And she reached out to me saying she wanted someone to help out and just have some input in the shop and kind of bring some new energy. And it just, she makes it such a beautiful experience. She's so lovely, and she's become sort of a mentor to me too. So it's just really nice to go there and have that sort of collaborative space. And yeah.
Do you get inspiration from the other artists that are there as well?
I do. I feel like everyone is so varied there. She does a good job of not, there's several jewelry designers represented, and none of our work looks the same. So.
No. Well, I think that was all the questions that I had. Was there anything else you'd like to add?
Stay tuned to Stiff Station Gifts. We're always doing fun things, and we do classes, and we're just always keeping it fresh there. And you can find all of my stuff at Stiff Station Gifts. So.
Awesome. And do you teach jewelry making classes there?
I do. I do a fun little class there. I call it Bead and Bitch, and it's more. I've done some kid ones that are bead and banter.
More child friendly.
Yeah, but we just hang out, and I'm doing one in a couple of weeks. We're doing retro inspired charm bracelets. So it's more of a relaxing, fun craft that's affordable, rather than something that is you're not gonna be stressed out.
It shouldn't. Yeah, it should. When going to the class, you should have a good time. Well, so people can find you at Stiff Station Gifts, and then you're on Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on everything. My website's bangupbetty.com.
Okay, and then people could just go on social media and Bang Up Betty is what you're under. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's it. This has been Sustaining Craft with Elizabeth Silverstein and my guest today, Stacey Bowers of Bang Up Betty. Find her on her website, social media, and the music for the podcast is from Jim Chiago of Second Chance. You can find him on iTunes and Spotify, or playing around Denver under Nomad Neighbors. And before we sign off completely, Stacey, do you have any advice for someone who is looking to perhaps turn their little side hustle into something bigger?
I always tell people to be true to yourself. Speak your personality. Don't speak anyone else's personality. That's what people want to hear. They want to hear your story. And as long as you are true to yourself, then you'll love what you do.